You have the biggest dick I've ever seen on a man.
Thanks.
There is one I could call king.
Fantasy TV has had its ups and downs, and those ups and downs have largely coincided with the success and failure of A Game of Thrones. Good thing for us is that we're on the up in 2026, because HBO managed to cook like Gordon Ramsay with A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, Michelin stars and all. This show slaps. It is a certified banger, from its cast to its acting, action, dialogue, writing and everything else in between. Now, if you're a fan of anything fantasy, which I reckon you would be if you're a fan of this channel as well, then you have to watch this show. Show yourself some love and do it. The power of genuine entertainment compels you. But that also got me thinking. As an Elder Scrolls YouTuber trying to waddle his way through life, what if this inspires Bethesda to make an Elder Scrolls series?
I think I could be quite happy in a place like this.
You're in a place like this?
I meant for a while.
Ah.
Now, first of all, I will be doing my best to avoid spoilers for the show, but some are probably inevitable. This will be a semi-review and a semi-ramble about A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, and the prospect of Bethesda IP shows in the future. So let's start with the former. This show is pretty much everything I wanted it to be, and this is coming from someone who watched all of Game of Thrones and got disappointed by House of the Dragon Season 2. For me, the world of A Song of Ice and Fire has been on a downward trajectory pretty much since Season 4 of Game of Thrones. This downward trajectory wasn't all that noticeable for Season 5 and 6. Yes, there was a drop in quality, but it still felt like Game of Thrones. Some of the cracks, particularly with pacing, became much more of an issue in Season 7, and Season 8 onwards is basically just straight dog water. House of the Dragon started relatively well, and then sort of just went off the deep end, had pacing issues and got to the point where George R.R. Martin publicly stated that the House of the Dragon wasn't what he wanted out of the show. On top of all of this, the main book series has infamously stalled for basically as long as the Elder Scrolls series has, and the IP hasn't made much of an impact in video gaming. But who would have thought that some lovable Irish himbo and his shiny-headed squire would have brought the whole thing back roaring. Now, the main reason for this, in my opinion, is book accuracy. There are scenes that are almost word for word from the novellas, something that has actually been a part of the marketing. And as someone who has read the novellas, I have almost no complaints. And any that I have are nitpicks at best, that are really not worth mentioning. Interestingly, the show has the opposite problem to solve compared to A Game of Thrones. While Thrones had to cut a bunch of stuff, due to the books being very complicated, with dozens of storylines at a time and hundreds of named characters, the Dunk and Egg novellas that A Night of the Seven Kingdoms is based on are extremely lean. The Hedge Knight, which Season 1 is based on, is only around 30,000 words, which is basically a third of The Hobbit's 95,000 words, and even that's a short book by fantasy standards. As a result, there was a lot of room for stuff to be added in order to make a full season of television, and even then, the show is super short, clocking in at 6 episodes roughly 30 minutes each. The scenes that get added are great stuff, fleshing out characters who only made a passing impression in the books, particularly Raymond Ride or Die Fossaway and Lionel the Laughing Storm Baratheon. It all feels super efficient too, and very little feels wasted. As a result, this show is the best pacing we've seen since Game of Thrones Season 4. And at no point did I think, can we just go back to the entertaining part, because all of it was entertaining. A big reason for this could be George R.R. Martin's direct involvement, credited as an executive producer. And in interviews, you can tell Mr. I'll finish wins in another life feels that this is very much a representation of the story he wrote, something that isn't the case with Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon in 2026. If you've got a passionate author, a passionate team, and a passionate cast, you can really make something special, which is the case here. Episode 5 even caused a war with the Breaking Bad fandom, and with it being a mid-budget show, as HBO put it, all about knights, chivalry and a morally good hero, it could have been seen as something potentially generic and lazy if the execution wasn't right. Instead, the budget restriction has forced HBO to make it all practical, gritty, and sustainable, while its writing keeps the show from feeling run-of-the-mill. More importantly than all of that, look at the drip. Look at these guys, they are dripped out of their minds. As someone who also just loves knights in general, it finally feels that HBO is getting armor right. And it all gets me excited to see Season 2, even though I know everything that's going to happen up until the end of Season 3. But it also got me thinking, would it spur on a fantasy series revival? While Game of Thrones wasn't the first fantasy series on TV screens, with the likes of Merlin, an absolute classic, coming before, it was 100% the biggest influence going forward. Everyone wanted to make their own dark and gritty fantasy show, and what we, as an audience, got was pretty much slop. The Witcher started okay for the first season, then fell off a cliff, leading to the disaster that was Blood Origin and the butchering of my favourite short story from the Sword of Destiny. So thanks for that, Netflix. I know the book fans of A Wheel of Time are very, very unhappy with the TV series, and the less said about the Rings of Power, the better. Yeah, that one stings a lot too. Even HBO fell victim to sloppiness, with the last season of Thrones and the mess that is House of the Dragon Season 2. Granted, a bit of me still thinks Hot D Season 3 could actually fix a lot of the issues with the prior season, especially because this trend of declining quality is being reversed with the Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, so perhaps this could also be an influence going forward, and this lighter tone that the show introduces, which still has plenty of dark moments, could be perfect for the Elder Scrolls to emulate, a series known for its quirks and occasional humour but still explores dark themes. It's not like there isn't room in the world for more game adaptations, and there is clearly a lot of money in it right now. Bethesda itself has made its fair share of cash with a video game adaptation. Fallout. Fallout has been a rousing success, and I personally love the show. It benefits from Bethesda's input, similarly to how A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms benefits from George, don't forget there's another book after the Winds of Winter, R.R. Martin. Now, Bethesda did not make Fallout, and since acquiring it, Todd and crew aren't the only people who have worked on the IP, with Obsidian making the best game in the series since the Bethesda takeover. I've seen people complain about how the show messes up the lore established from prior games, which is a totally valid complaint and also totally expected, because it's Bethesda. Lore consistency is a myth, and to be honest, I'm kinda numb to it now. Still, the Fallout show has been a huge success, and a cut above most game adaptations, especially series, like Netflix's Devil May Cry and The Witcher. Yes, I know it was a book first, I've read them, but the games are why we have a show, for better or for worse. With the third season of Fallout next on the menu, it's clear that Bethesda and Prime Video have a method for success that could be used for an Elder Scrolls show, but my wants and desires aside, would an Elder Scrolls show even be possible? Well, this is what Todd had to say when doing a promo for Fallout Season 2 when asked about the possibility.
You know, I would say this, that the Fallout journey was like a 10-year one. Right after Fallout 3, it was sort of people were asking movie, show, whatever to do in Fallout, and we really took our time. I can't rule in or rule out an Elder Scrolls thing in the future. I think Fallout was more like uniquely suited. I think it has more to say in its genre right now. But you never know. I think the impact of the show on like Fallout as a franchise has been bigger than I expected. So it does make you think like, hey, is there a path? But nothing today, and I'm willing to say no for a decade.
It's largely the same message he had a year before, so it's possible, but not currently on the cards. our Lord and Saviour makes a good point about Fallout having more to say than Elder Scrolls as a TV show, and that its more unique nature also means that there's going to be more of an audience that are willing to watch it. There isn't really anything as big as Fallout in that atomic punk, retro-futuristic, post-apocalyptic genre. Goddamn, that was a mouthful. Yet, as much as I love Elder Scrolls, I'm not saying it's the biggest fantasy IP around. I think you can safely put a Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, and Narnia above it. Still, the introduction of A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms could change that if Amazon Prime want to have yet another pop as a popular fantasy show, after the middling receptions of Rings of Power and Wheel of Time. We're somehow getting a third season of Rings of Power, meaning that Amazon is really trying to make this happen. But the cancellation of the Wheel of Time Season 4 means that they could make room for another fantasy series in the future. Theoretically, Bethesda's direct involvement should help even more than with the Fallout show too, since Elder Scrolls has been a Bethesda IP from the very start. Granted, you've lost a few key members that made the series what it is, including Michael Kirkbride and Kurt Coleman, but with Todd's involvement and passionate writers, it could still happen and it could still be good. Another obstacle would be stretching Todd too thin, considering how much he's got on his plate, but he does seem willing to do an Elder Scrolls show at some time in the future, just not the close one. He even says, probably not in the next 10 years, which would be even more waiting for us Scrolls fans. But hey, I guess we're used to it by now. Still, if the folks at Amazon Prime see the success of A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms and it continues for the next few seasons, they could want a slice of the action and push to make an Elder Scrolls TV show, especially if the Fallout series continues on its current trajectory. Budgets could be a problem, considering the quite frankly crazy nonsense in the Elder Scrolls universe, and maybe a mid-budget mould of the Tales of Dunk and Egg isn't transferable. But if you don't mind me dreaming for a second, let's think about where a show could take place. You see, The Elder Scrolls has thousands of years of lore prior to the games to work with, while Fallout basically has from 1945 onward, which equates to roughly 330 odd years by the time we get to the show. That means going into the past is where the magic can happen. For me, each area could have a series about it, perhaps a season each as a kind of anthology. We could look at Ysgramor, The Night of Tears, The Return, and the founding of Skyrim as Season 1, the rise of the Alessian Empire and the madness of Pelennor Whitestrake as Season 2, the Akaviri invasion and Remen Cyrodiil's rise to power as Season 3, Talos doing Talos things as Season 4, and finally the Mede Empire picking up the pieces during the absolute chaos of the Stormcrown Interregnum as Season 5. These seasons would cover the Merithic, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th eras respectively. None of these events are shown in the games in a strong capacity, at least to my knowledge, and this anthology presentation could give the show a unique selling point, which also demonstrates the uniqueness of the Elder Scrolls world compared to other fantasy universes. Ysgramor and co. leading Season 1 would also have a lot of the trademarks of Skyrim, making it more recognisable to the casual fans, like having shouts and dragons. This gives casual fans something that they can point out, DiCaprio style, but exploring, say, Atmora in this proposed Season 1 would give us more die-hard fans something we haven't seen from the universe as of yet. All of this is to say that we might not get an Elder Scrolls show ever. Todd has shown some willingness, but he doesn't want to tackle it anytime soon, clearly. Still, with the positive impact the Fallout series has had on the game franchise, and A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms being so good, it could revive not only A Song of Ice and Fire on TV screens, but fantasy TV as a whole. This could then give an Elder Scrolls show a potential audience, especially once House of the Dragon ends and A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms is several seasons deep. I know we only have 3 novellas to work with right now, but there have been reports that George R.R. Martin has given the showrunners ideas for many Dunk and Egg stories. And if you are a Song of Ice and Fire fan, you know of 2 major events of which Dunk and Egg are involved in, which aren't mentioned in the novellas, meaning that if all goes well, we could end up with over a dozen seasons. With The Witcher show imploding, The Wheel of Time getting cancelled, and The Rings of Power not really making much of an impact, there's definitely space alongside A Song of Ice and Fire. But I do want to make it clear that I'm not expecting an Elder Scrolls show to be as good as A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms or Game of Thrones during season 1 to 4. Those shows are absolute cinema in those periods, but if Bethesda can get the right people to make an Elder Scrolls show as good as the Fallout series, years and years and years down the line, I'll be ready and waiting, with popcorn in hand. A bit of me still willing to bet we'll get an Elder Scrolls show before ES6. Thanks for watching what is somewhat of a departure for me. I don't expect this video to do too well, considering that it's just me venting thoughts, rather than the deep, researched lore dives you're probably used to if you've seen this channel before. Still, if this ends up doing well, I might do a more in-depth look at A Song of Ice and Fire stuff, and A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, as I have read the novellas, and this is the timeline of Westeros that I'm personally most attached to. Either way, thank you for watching, and thank you for indulging what has been essentially a structured ramble. Please do all that like, comment and subscribe malarkey that we YouTubers enjoy so much. It really does help, apparently. I mean, that's what everyone else says, but don't worry, there will be another Elder Scrolls lore dive next week, and I'll hopefully see you then.
Oh, Alice with 3 fingers, a copper in her glass. Had 2 fingers less than most, she'll shove them up your ass. Hey! I once gave her a silver, feeling down and lone. I tried to buy a pinky, but I got the whole I'm bone. Oh, Alice with 3 fingers never had a lot. She gave me all she had to give, to more than what was sought. Oh, to more than what I bought.